Thank you very much, Julie Ann. And first, let me say how lovely it is to see everybody in person again. It's been a few years, thanks to COVID. We've all been in Zoom land, so it's very nice to be back again. So welcome. We are talking about cryptocurrency today. So our speaker is Linda Goetze, who received her master's degree in education from Piedmont University, and since 2012 has been engaged with blockchain technology, which is essentially a shared ledger that allows us to see a record of transactions made in cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin via computers that are linked together in a peer-to-peer network. She is an educator and connector and is co-founder and executive vice president of DFM Data Corp, which provides digital freight matching services. I hope I got that right, Linda. Linda served as the first female president and CEO of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. And she is now vice president of the board of directors of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Linda is also passionately engaged in facilitating the responsible use of cutting-edge technologies for the betterment of humanity. A member of Mensa and proud mother of 13-year-old twins, she left traditional employment behind after spending 13 years as an award-winning educator. Advising several projects and funds, Linda leads to serve and supports several nonprofits, including her favorite charity, bloominthedark.org. So today, Linda is going to demystify the world of cryptocurrency for us, so we'll all be better able to make decisions on how or if digital currencies will become a part of our lives. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna say hi to everyone out there in Zoom land, and very, very thankful that we have the opportunity to be in real life. So I am an educator. I have had the honor and pleasure to teach the youngest how to manage themselves and teach ninth graders who are reading at an unmeasurable level to raise their reading rates to 10.5. This is, for me, the best type of education I could do when I step into a room and I can share experiences that I've had to help you guys frame where you are and how that fits into the world as we've known it and as it is becoming. And so the very simple thing of teaching a child to read is life-changing. The very simple thing of understanding what is cryptocurrency can also be life-changing. And it's how we store our value. It's how we understand value. And when you can communicate that, it's really, really empowering. And I'm hopeful today. You're not going to hear me selling anything. You're not going to hear me telling you, you need to buy this, you need to do that. This is about helping you take and frame where you currently are and where things are headed and how you might fit into that picture. And just so I level set, does anybody in the room actually own any cryptocurrency today? Okay, if you do, you just did a really smart thing. Never raise your hand when somebody asks you that. Okay, just saying. The reason is, if you're broadcasting that you own cryptocurrency and you don't have security in place to help protect that asset, you can become a target. And I just want to preface the conversation with that. Make your choices based on where you are in life, what your investment choices, opportunities are, but it's not something that you broadcast. And I've put myself in a position where I've been targeted and hacked and all sorts of fun things because I've been willing to be an educator and have gone on an international stage to communicate about cryptocurrencies. It's not fun. So probably the majority of you are never going to be putting yourself in that position. I just wanted to put that cautionary note out there on the front end of this chat. So I know you don't enjoy looking at my back here, so we're going to go ahead to the slide. I am with the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my story, and then a little bit about Satoshi Nakamoto's story, and then I'm going to read you a story. So you didn't know this was book club, did you? Yeah, okay. So back in 2011, I was visiting my parents. I think it was the Thanksgiving holidays, and they had a home office. There were like 4 screens set up. You know, my mom, she just turned 85, but technologist, like she knew how to work her way around there. And I saw a pop-up on the screen. I was like, what's that? It says Bitcoin faucet. What? They're trying to get me to download a game? Like, okay, I play this game and I get Bitcoin dripped in my wallet. What kind of wallet? So all of these questions from this one little pop-up, and respecting my parents' technology, I did not click on anything, but I had this Bitcoin bug in my brain going, well, what is that? And because I educate, I also like to learn so that I have a clue what I'm talking about. So I started researching, what is Bitcoin and why should I care? And I started running into people who were talking about it and engaging with it, and you know, telling me that this new technology was going to change the way the world worked, and it was a potential chaos hedge and a inflationary hedge, and I'm hearing all of these things going like, okay, how can I touch it? You guys ever asked like, okay, so how can I touch this? I brought something today. This is probably going to be a relic. It's one of the original physical representations of a Bitcoin, but it is not a Bitcoin. Okay, so if ever anyone tries to sell you one of these and it's more than $2, or it's like, you know, in a numismatic collection type thing, it is not worth $20, $30, $60,000, this little Bitcoin. Okay, now I have with me a silver coin, and this is a troy ounce of silver. Got it at an event I went to, and you know, this trades at the value, either numismatic value or a troy ounce of silver, right? Everyone understands that because historically we've traded value and exchanged it in some way that people understand. Physical, you understand. We're going into a digital world that makes it more difficult to wrap your mind around. And even more difficult with Bitcoin specifically, because we have the inventor of Bitcoin who never told anybody who he was. Has anyone heard the name Satoshi Nakamoto? Okay, so some of you guys have heard that name. Anybody seen a picture of Satoshi Nakamoto? No? Okay. Well, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. And so we have a faceless entity who put together some really innovative technology in a way no one else had done it before, and allowed there to be a way to store value that was not under the control of any other entity other than a distributed ledger. So this is technology, but a human was the one responsible for it. And I have a picture here with one of the humans that people think might be Satoshi Nakamoto. I think Elon Musk actually was throwing out there that Nick Spanos was Satoshi. I'm not in that camp, but I have met the man. He's a very interesting character. And once again, you can tell people you have never seen a picture of Satoshi Nakamoto, but there's always question marks, and it's always fun to kind of suss out what is real. And this little book, I'm a teacher, right? I love to teach people how to read. I love to read. So if you can humor me, I'm going to read to you. It's going to take, 10, 15 minutes. But I hope that this is one of the most life-changing books you ever hear read. May or may not be, but hope springs eternal. The author's note: many have heard of the world's first decentralized digital currency, Bitcoin, but few understand how it works and why it was created. In this short story, we explore the origins of money, the invention of Bitcoin and the role it serves as sound, reliable money. I believe that the key value of Bitcoin is its economic role, and so we focus on that aspect as opposed to a detailed explanation of the technology behind it. Although it appears as a simple children's story, I hope that this book can serve as an introduction to Bitcoin for people of all ages. I'll show you the pictures. I'm not sure how well everybody can see them, but think lemonade stand, think growing up. My kids are 13 now. I have twins, a boy and a girl. They did lemonade stands, right? This is some of our first experience in commerce comes from the lemonade stand trade. So the town of Bittville was filled with children who each had a unique skill. Every kid knew that they could offer something special that other children would want. My lemonade is everyone's favorite drink, said Alice. Maybe I should open a lemonade stand. My father always asked me to mow the lawn because I make the lines straight, Bobby added. I bet other people would like their lawns mowed too. Charlie looked up from his sketchbook. My friends asked me to make pictures for them because I'm good at drawing. At first, everyone was happy to trade their own goods or service directly to another person for what they had to offer. Bobby would mow Alice's lawn in exchange for lemonade. When Alice wanted a new drawing, she traded lemonade for one of Charlie's pictures. Trade. Very simple, right? But one day, things didn't seem to work out so well. Bobby, will you mow my lawn for a drawing today? Charlie asked. I don't need any drawings today. I would rather have a lemonade, said Bobby. However, Alice's lemonade stand was closed because she was at the beach. Problems like this kept happening. Sometimes Alice wanted her lawn mowed. There would be 5 cups of lemonade, but maybe only 3 were left. Sometimes Bobby wanted a drawing from Charlie, but Charlie's grass didn't need to be mowed yet. There's a problem with this commerce. For trade to work, everything needs to line up just right, the time, the place, the amounts, and both people have to want what the other person is offering. This is all very basic, fundamental, right? We're all getting that. So they realized they needed a better way to trade with each other. In comes money. Another boy in Bittville named Mickey noticed Alice, Bobby, and Charlie trading problems. We need to use money, he exclaimed. I've heard of money, but how does it work? Alice wondered. We have a light bulb moment. Somebody's coming up with, let's say you want your lawn mowed, Nikki began. You could pay Bobby with money even if he didn't want lemonade that day. Then he could save that money to spend another time or use it to buy something else. If we use money, I could sell pictures every day and save up enough to buy a new art set, said Charlie with glee. But what should we use for money? Think about what we've used for money historically. Like they traded shells, they traded wampum belts and really big rocks that the ownership of was, communicated across. This problem has been one that we've been trying to solve for in a lot of different ways for a very long time. So Bobby picked up a bag of grass clippings. Could grass clippings be used as money? That won't work, said Nikki. There are too many grass clippings. Grass grows everywhere. We need something that has a limited supply. Grass money was not going to happen. What about cups of lemonade? Could that be money? Asked Alice. Lemonade doesn't taste that good after it sits out for a few days, and it's hard to carry around without spilling. We need something that you can carry in your pocket. Lemonade money would not be a good idea. The kids thought about what else they might use as money. So you can see some of the things they thought about. I don't know if you can see the picture very well or not, but shiny rocks, bicycles, trees. They all decided for one reason or another, not a good choice. Flash, an idea popped in Nikki's head. Let's ask Goldie if we can use her metal coin collection as money. Goldie's father collected metal coins, and every week he would give Goldie a few coins to add to her own collection. Every coin weighed the same amount. Remember my troy ounce of silver? They're kind of getting to that point. So If we use metal coin money, we'll know how many coins there are to start. And since Goldie only gets a few extra coins per week, the supply is still pretty limited, Nikki said. Charlie was starting to like this idea. Metal coins fit nicely in your pocket or a purse. They don't get spoiled. I could use coins to buy a cup of lemonade and 5 coins to have my lawn mowed. Goldie was happy that everyone wanted to use her metal coins for money. She traded some of her coins for lemonade, drawings, and lawn mowing until everyone had some metal coin money of their own. Got commerce rolling with the coin money. Things were going really well in Bittville. Don't we love transitions? Some of the kids in Bittville saw how much metal money Alice, Bobby, and Charlie were collecting with their business, and they thought that was great. They were inspired to use their own special skills to start businesses and earn metal money for themselves. Soon enough, there were even more businesses in Bittville. This is commerce. Tony taught classes, Jim fixed computers, Lena built cool toys, Sam sold hats, and Dean opened his own barbecue stand. Eventually, everyone in town had their own collection of metal money. Some kids had more money, some had less, but that was okay because everyone helped each other in times of need. Using good money made life better for everyone. There was one big problem with all this new metal money, though. It was heavy. Some people, so here's a picture. I don't know if you can see this kid's pockets. So you get too much money, it's hard to carry it around. And so one of the most trustworthy kids in town, Benny, came up with a solution. He said, I have a safe in my house where we keep very important things. I could keep your metal money in my safe, and then I'll print out certificates for everyone to show how much money they each have. It's starting to sound like any systems that we have established. Yeah. You can carry around the paper money, and it won't be so heavy. Paper money seemed like a strange idea, says some of the kids, but because Benny was so trustworthy, everyone agreed to start using it. In fact, once it caught on, all the kids loved using paper money. It was so much easier to carry around. Remember when we transferred to credit cards and how much easier that was to carry around? We do this, right? This is the innovation of commerce. They also knew that one paper certificate was always worth one metal coin. Once again, life in Bittville was improving. As time passed and everyone in Bittville continued to use paper money, they almost forgot that there were metal coins in a safe at Benny's house. The coins were the money which they originally picked for its good qualities. Paper money was just a fill-in. When summer came, Benny announced that he was going away to camp. But not to worry, his brother, Freddie, would be taking care of the safe for now. Most kids didn't even notice the change. Freddie started off taking care of the metal coins, just like his brother Benny. He would only give out as much paper money as he had coins in the safe. But Freddie's friend, Kenny, had a different idea. Kenny saw how much everyone loved paper money. He thought to himself, if people love paper money, then they use it to buy things and start businesses, then wouldn't it be better if we had even more paper money? Kenny didn't understand that paper money was just a fill-in for real money, which was also just a fill-in for the work that people did in the first place. You can print more paper money, but you can't print more hard work. That takes time, effort, and energy. Freddie and Kenny thought they were doing everybody a favor, and it helped that they also got to keep the first batch of freshly printed paper money for themselves. At first, everything seemed to be going great. Kids loved having all of this extra money printed, especially the ones who were friends with Freddie and Kenny, since they got the new money before everybody else. Alice thought her business was booming. Every day she ran out of cups of lemonade, and there were still more customers with all their extra paper money. Being a smart businesswoman, she decided to raise the price from 1 paper bill per cup to 2. Now she was making twice as much money. Alice was excited to imagine all the things she could buy with so much money. But when she tried buying a drawing from Charlie, she realized his prices had doubled too. Alice had more paper money, but she couldn't buy anything more than before. At the end of the summer, when Benny came back home, he was easily convinced to go along with the money printing plan. When the kids came back from camp, they also noticed that their paper money bought a lot less than it used to. Maybe we should just go back to using metal money, Charlie told Benny. Benny, Freddie, and Kenny liked their endless supply of paper money. I don't even have the code to the safe anymore, Benny said. Just trust us. This is the best idea ever. The newly printed paper had changed the way kids saved and spent money. Instead of saving to buy something nice, every kid knew they had to spend it right away, or it might be worth even less the next day. A cup of lemonade that used to cost only one paper bill eventually ended up costing 100 paper bills. Sometimes you would even find paper money being swept in the street because it was worth so little. Things were not going well in Bittville. If this weren't so close to our current reality, it would be, just a children's book, right? Bitcoin. One day, a new boy moved to Bittville. He called himself Satoshi, but nobody knew much else about him. Satoshi noticed that the kids in Bittville were not happy about more and more paper money being printed each day. Satoshi thought to himself, what if we could make a new kind of money that is limited in supply, like metal money, but isn't heavy? Then everyone could carry it around for themselves without having to trust anybody else to keep it safe for them. He sat down and started brainstorming. He asked some of the other kids for their ideas too. Nikki knew a lot about how money worked, and another boy in town named Al was very good at math. After months of planning, Satoshi shared his idea with everyone. He called it Bitcoin. It was very complicated, but he tried to explain it simply. There will be a big chart in the middle of town that shows how much money every person has. Every day we'll meet here and update the chart with any changes or who gave some of their money to somebody else. Everybody will also keep their own copy of the chart, so nobody can come when no one else is looking and make fake changes. This way, we can all have our own money just by keeping track of this chart, and we can all make sure nobody is adding any new money. Sounds a little bit complicated. At first, most of the kids were not interested in this new Bitcoin money. It will never work, said one girl. If it doesn't come from Freddie and Kenny, it's not real money, said one of Freddie and Kennedy's good friends. But Satoshi and his friends continued to improve his invention. Instead of using a written chart, Satoshi figured out how to make Bitcoin work on an app. Some kids wondered why they should trust Satoshi to be in charge of the money. They barely even knew him. Satoshi explained that nobody needed to trust him at all. Since everyone had their own app, they could check the code themselves without needing to trust him or anyone else. Each person could run their own app to keep track of the Bitcoin themselves and make sure that no one was cheating. When they realized that nobody was in charge of this new money, not even Satoshi, some of the kids in Bittville got very excited and started using Bitcoin. Bitcoin began to catch on. Some kids wanted to spend it, some wanted to save it, and some wanted to use it to send money to friends who lived far away. The kids who didn't use Bitcoin began to realize that their paper money kept losing value because more and more was being printed. But Bitcoin money kept gaining value because the app was designed so that everyone could verify that there was a limited amount. Kids loved Bitcoin because as an app, it was easy to carry around. Bitcoins were very durable too. You could make a backup to keep them safe. They could be spent in various amounts, 3 Bitcoins for a steak, 6 Bitcoins for a hat, a cup of Bitcoin for a half a Bitcoin for a cup of lemonade. And every single Bitcoin was worth the same as every other Bitcoin. Bitcoin was running smoothly when, to everyone's surprise, Satoshi suddenly announced that he was leaving Bittville. My family is moving on to other things in a different town, he declared, before mysteriously disappearing. Nobody has seen or heard from him since. Some kids wonder if Satoshi was even his real name. The good thing was that Bitcoin was just fine with Satoshi gone. Since everyone was running their own app, they didn't need him anymore to make Bitcoin work. It seemed that Bittville had finally found a good money, Bitcoin money. Like all good innovations, we have copies. For everyone who was using Bitcoin money, things were going great, but not everybody was happy. Freddie and Kenny didn't like that kids were starting to use a different kind of money. Their freshly printed money quickly lost its value. First, Freddie and Kenny tried to deny that Bitcoin could ever work, but that clearly wasn't the case. Then they thought of another idea. What if they made their own copy of Bitcoin that they were in charge of? Bitcoin isn't really money, only we can make money, but the technology is very interesting. So we've made our own money called Fredcoin, Freddie announced with great enthusiasm. We have Fredcoin. Almost sounds like Fedcoin. I don't know. If you've watched any of what's been happening with CBDCs, this should be ringing some bells. If not, I'll tell you a little bit about it because we are in a very interesting transitionary time. But the kids in Bitville weren't buying it. They remembered the last time they trusted Freddie and Kenny to take care of their money. The whole point of Bitcoin was that you didn't need to trust anybody. Other kids also tried to make their own copies of Bitcoin. There was ABC coin and XYZ coin. There was Bitcoin big and Bitcoin small. Many of these coins had the same properties as paper money. In order to use them, you had to trust the person who made them. You don't need to run your own app. You can trust me. I won't make the same mistakes as Freddie and Kenny was often heard. But by this time, most kids like to be able to verify their own money with their own app. They're like the real Bitcoin. And besides, if everyone created their own money, wouldn't that be just as bad as when too much paper money was printed? It could be even worse. These Bitcoin copies were not good money. Some kids complained that Bitcoin was too slow, but Lizzie and Lolly, two really smart kids, worked out a way to make Bitcoin lightning fast. When most kids in Bitville used Bitcoin, life improved for everyone. They could save money or build business easily because Bitcoin was fair and reliable. With Bitcoin as their money, the future looked bright for Bitville. The kids in Bitville wanted to make their lives better by working hard and providing goods and services for each other. Bobby knew that by mowing lawns, he could make life better for all the kids who wanted their lawns mowed, and in exchange, they would make his life better by giving him something he wanted. Alice could get the goods and services that she wanted by providing lemonade to other kids. They soon realized that direct trade and barter can work if everyone matches up, if everything matches up. The time, the place, the amounts, and the wants of both sides. Most of the time, a tool is needed to make trading easier. That tool is money. With money, we can save, exchange, and easily keep track of value. But not everything can be used as money. Your time and energy is very important because it's limited. So when you trade your time and energy for money, you need to make sure that the money you're getting in return is limited and valuable as well. The kids from Bitville searched for the best kind of money. It had to be durable, portable, uniform, divisible, and limited in supply. They tried many options, but in the end, they discovered that Bitcoin was the best money. It's just a kid's story. It's just a simple run through kind of the history of money as we've experienced it, many of us in our lifetimes. And this is about commerce, which is why I'm here today, because I think it's really, really important for us to have awareness, and then facilitating adoption is something that I hope education can support, and then advocacy is something that we all need. So raising awareness, facilitating adoption, and inspiring advocacy are the three pillars of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce. And we're all still learning. This is not, I'm not standing in front of you saying, I've got all the answers. I've always done it right. I know what I'm doing on everything, because I don't. And it's been 10 years that I have owned Bitcoin, and it's still changing. I mean, when you heard about the Lightning Network, that's the faster way to exchange Bitcoin and do it more cheaply. That's innovation that's happened during my time engaging with Bitcoin. I actually ate the first pizza, well, a slice of the first pizza purchased using the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So if we think about the blockchain and the innovation that has been done, it's constantly changing and adjusting and adapting to it. It can sometimes feel like overwhelming and challenging, but hopefully the perspective of history will help you make some choices that you don't have to go down the rabbit hole and get sucked into all of the possibilities. You can say, what is one thing that I can do differently? And I'm highlighting Ambassador Andrew Young here. I actually met with him several years ago when he sent me a message and said, I'd like to understand this blockchain technology. What is Bitcoin? And so I met with him with a number of members of the chamber, and I'm going to let you listen to a short video of the meeting that we had. He had us to a beautiful country club in Atlanta, Georgia. And when we're thinking about the history of money and kind of going back to the book that I just read, listen to the piece of history that he has to share with you, because you've all lived it. You've lived this history. This is insight from a man who was sitting in the room when that history was made.
They put me on the banking committee because banking, well, we were building MARTA, and I wanted to be on the mass transit committee. There was no mass transit committee. They said, but mass transit would probably come under urban affairs, and urban affairs is under banking. Why don't you go on the banking committee and you can start a subcommittee on mass transit, which we did. You have to serve in two other subcommittees. So I chose international finance. And in my first meeting, Paul Volcker, Arthur Burns was Federal Reserve, and George Shultz was the Secretary of Treasury. And they came to tell us that they were ending the Bretton Woods agreements. Well, I didn't know what that was, never heard of it before, but I figured I finally found out that in 1944, they tied all the world's currencies to the dollar, and the dollar was tied to gold. Right. So from 1944 to 1973, the world had a stable economic platform, and almost every country grew between 3% and 6% during that period. Developing countries, Europe, the U.S., it was a growth period under a stable financial regime. They came to break it up, and nobody asked any questions, and I was young enough and ignorant enough to say, look, I don't know what's going on here, but it seems to me that if the dollar isn't tied to something, people are going to play politics with our currency. And Arthur Burns said, young man, you'll soon learn that the dollar doesn't need you to defend it. That shut me up. Except that years later, I read a book by Paul Volcker where he admitted that the three of them had not even discussed it before they came to do it. Somebody had sent them there to end the Bretton Woods agreements. And because of impeachment, there was never a discussion of it anywhere in the Congress. It happened, it changed the world, but what it did for me was watching the price of oil. Oil was $2.50 a barrel when that occurred. I think it was September '73. And by the end of the year, it was $15 a barrel. By the end of the next year, it got up to $150 a barrel from $250. And so it seemed to me that people were playing games. They took gold out of the driver's seat and oil took over,
Became
deciding who had money, who was wealthy.
still is today.
So it's very sobering for me to sit there and hear him share that the basis of the dollars that I was working for and that you have all worked for throughout your lives and are expecting to have that time value that you put in be available to you to draw out as you live in this amazing location. I have to say, I've really enjoyed walking through here. I didn't even know that this location was here, and it's a beautiful space, and what a wonderful opportunity to have. But the expectation is that the value that you put in with your time will be able to be extracted from those dollars in the time that you need them, right? And that the legacy that you've built for your children and your grandchildren is going to be available for them, representing the value of your life and your investments and your choices over time to bless future generations. That expectation is not being respected in the decisions that are being made in some instances by people who've been told to shut up, young man. You don't understand. He was on a committee that was just told that we're taking away the gold standard. We're removing this connection. Whether it was a right or wrong choice, it's not for me to decide, and I don't do politics, so this isn't a, which side of the aisle. This is about decisions being made with your time and how it can be stored and what you choose to do with the knowledge that you have to potentially choose a different store of value that doesn't have potentially the same machinations around it. So I had a wonderful opportunity in meeting the ambassador, and the young lady sitting there, Pam, worked very closely with me at the chamber, as did her brother. And the next little piece of the presentation is going to be, if this works. No worries. Yes, is going to be education. And this is a young lady that we had a debate series and a public speaking series that we did where these young people focused on understanding cryptocurrencies and blockchain and engaging in debate and public speaking around it. So education is one of the things I really enjoy, and where we have the Gartner folks saying that crypto is at is right there in the slope of enlightenment. So let me see if I can use this pointer right there. So cryptocurrencies, it's in the slope of enlightenment, headed to the plateau of productivity. So when I was engaging 10 years ago with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we were in the innovation trigger, kind of getting, 2017 was kind of the peak of inflated expectations. I don't know if everyone recalled, the hype cycle of 2017. Bitcoin went over $20,000 a Bitcoin for the first time. Everybody was hearing about it in the news, and that was probably that peak point right there. But since then, it's gone through the trough of disillusionment and is now on the slope of enlightenment. So we have a phenomenal number of companies and countries that are beginning to put Bitcoin on their books because they understand that when you get to the plateau of productivity, you don't have the same volatility, right? So think about adoption of something. If you have limited supply, and Bitcoin will only ever have 21 million Bitcoin produced, limited supply and growing or limitless demand, you will have a rise in price. Okay. So where we are right here with cryptocurrencies, in that slope of enlightenment, people are figuring that out. And the price, although still volatile, is historically rising over time. And I'm trying to think if I have the numbers right in my head, but I had a friend who bought $50 worth of Bitcoin back in 2010. Didn't touch the wallet for 11, 12 years. Life-changing money. It was $50. Not too far down the road, I think it was 52 million% growth, something like it was insane. Numbers that you just don't see. And that depending, a lot of people right here, they don't get into something because it seems very strange and it's unknown. It's truly the fear of the unknown that keeps us from engaging with things. And then sometimes it's fear of missing out. Has anyone ever heard the term FOMO? Fear of missing out? And that makes you jump in, sometimes blindly, many times with poor judgment, because you're not wanting to miss out, and you see, somebody buying a fancy car or saying, hey, I bought this house with Bitcoin, and you're like, well, I want to, and that's poor judgment to jump in with FOMO. What I think is very wise judgment is to act on fear of the known. And inflation is becoming a more and more obvious driver for adoption of other stores of value. And Bitcoin has been called a commodity. And if you're the kind of person who has assets that you want to invest in long-term investments, you can buy commodities. Bitcoin has been proven over time, if you have 1 to 3% of your investable assets in Bitcoin, it actually reduces the volatility of your portfolio. Reduces. So a lot of people are, oh, Bitcoin's too volatile. It was up over 60 something thousand and now it crashed back down to around 20. That's just too volatile for me. Okay. But it also, in the time period that I've had it, gone from under 100 to over 69,000 for one Bitcoin. Best performing asset class in my portfolio. Am I going, oh my gosh, it went down to 20,000? No, because it's a commodity. It's a long-term hold. It's an asset that is legacy for my children. This is how I view Bitcoin. This is my perspective. But I've watched for 10 years the ups and downs, the hype cycles. I have seen it in the headlines. Bitcoin is dead. More times than I can tell you. But if you understand the fundamental value of it and understand that the security and the immutability, and I'm getting ahead of myself. I have some slides that actually highlight some of these things. And I'm going to use Adam, who is Pam's brother that I told you about. He actually met with Ambassador Andrew Young with us as well. I think he was behind the camera of the picture that I shared with you. But when he was working for the chamber, this is part of a slide deck that he put together. And it's just very straightforward. I'm not going to go into all kind of techie stuff, but I want to hit the fundamentals in a way that you feel like this is an addressable area and not just this, fairy Bitcoin in the sky that you can't understand. So I did want to show this because Adam has been highlighted as a 21st century Renaissance man. Brilliant young man, an artist, and just a very, very talented. And he has been a very strong proponent and very powerful educator around blockchain and Bitcoin. So this is, basic definitions. I think, when you gave your definition of blockchain earlier, Paula, very Very straightforward. Do you need to understand what blockchain is to own Bitcoin and benefit from it over time? No. Is it sometimes nice to better understand something? Yes. So if anybody has specific questions about any of these terms and you feel it's important for you to understand what it means in order to engage with Bitcoin, happy to answer your questions. Yes. I'll take this one, then we'll go. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a great question, because it's like in the story where you had the limitless printing of money, right? And that created a problem. Where the switch was when someone recognized there was a problem and created something different. And that was the Bitcoin network being created. That was the different type of money being created. It's this technology, this cryptography, it is a digital way to manage the creation of something that cannot be controlled by external forces. That was exactly because the switch to Bitcoin was focusing on, hey, you and I many of us have smartphones, and I can have an app on my phone. I actually do have an app on my phone, and if anyone's brave enough by the end of the meeting to download an app on their phone, I will send you Bitcoin. Okay, we can do a transaction like that, where I can just take some Bitcoin that's in my wallet and put it in your brand new wallet. That's another great question. The limited supply of Bitcoin is baked into the code of the Bitcoin blockchain. And there can ever only be 21 million Bitcoin that are going to be created. And we're already over 19 million Bitcoin. And the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is it's divisible. So like $1, you can have 100 cents, right? You get your 100 pennies, that equals $1. With a Bitcoin, you have 100 million Satoshis. So every single Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million, like pennies, if you want to think of it that way, but they're called Satoshis. So you have a limited supply. You have a way to use that limited supply in a very broad manner. If you think that every dollar that is currently in circulation could be 100 Satoshis, it's an interesting experiment to run through to get that correlation of something being able to transfer value down to very, very tiny, penny type amounts, but only ever can there be 21 million of them created. And I know I'm running short on time, and I love questions, so I'm going to run through these slides. And I'll come back to the questions I see here, and maybe there'll be some online as well. So yeah, this is cryptography. This is about algorithms. This is about tech. You don't have to understand the cryptography to be able to benefit from the security. So that's, we've kind of talked around this some. The scarcity, that's 21 million, right? The public-private keys, that security is there. It's SHA-256, which may be getting too technical, but it is a type of cryptography. They do have smart contracts. There's a lot of really cool functionality that can be executed on blockchains. And the pseudo-anonymity component of it, I want to be really clear about, because some people go, well, it's just criminals that use that Bitcoin because nobody can tell who they are because they have this anonymous network. That is not the case. Actually, only stupid criminals use Bitcoin because it is trackable. And if you ever try to take it out of a wallet into, say, fiat currency or dollars or yen or rubles, you're identifiable and catchable. So that's an awareness to have. If you never take it out of Bitcoin and you only use a wallet that doesn't have what's called KYC AML, that's know your customer and anti-money laundering. So KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering. Your banks, your credit cards, they all have to take your data, right? And everybody heard about data breaches lately? We've unfortunately, with the war, Russia, there's a lot of targeting. The cyber attacks are awful. So we have this security level in the, specifically the Bitcoin blockchain, but some other blockchains also have very good security. But don't deceive yourself that it's totally anonymous, because it's not. Anytime you transfer in and out, they're going to be getting your information, understanding who you are, and that's appropriate to bring down bad actors. So yeah, so interesting. And then this is probably a little bit of extra awareness as well. There's something called the halvening, and he has halving, but that means that the block rewards that are part of this creation of Bitcoin, right now, every 10 minutes, 12.5, 6.25. So today, 6.25 Bitcoin is created every 10 minutes. That's along the rules of the algorithm for Bitcoin being created. Every 4 years, that amount splits in half. So it started at 50. 2008, 2009, you were mining Bitcoin. Every 10 minutes, somebody got 50 Bitcoin. Okay. Then it went down to 25. Then it went down to 12.5. Now it's at 6.25. So in another couple of years, we're going to have another halvening, and that's going to keep happening just about every 4 years until 2140. So there'll just be less and less Bitcoin created on a very set schedule that nobody controls. It's just baked into the code. So this takes it out of the hands of any government or business entity or someone saying, I want to manipulate or manage this. It just is. And it's been working seamlessly that way for the past 13 years. So we have a 13-year track record of the Bitcoin code doing exactly what the Bitcoin code was designed to do consistently over time. And consistently over time, we've seen a rise in the price of Bitcoin as well, because once again, limited supply, growing demand generally equals rising price. So actually getting that Bitcoin reward, there's a lot of people that will pool their compute power. So basically they'll get really fancy computers and say, hey, I'm going to attach my fancy computer to these 1,000 other fancy computers, and maybe our group of computers will get a block reward and I'll share in that because I'm part of this pool. So I don't know that any of you guys want to go into, mining Bitcoin, but that is a way that you can get Bitcoin, is to invest in the technology that actually supports the Bitcoin blockchain, it supports its security. Paul and I had a great conversation about, why do miners exist and have to do these like complicated puzzles? It's for the security of the network, for the security of your money. They're not paying anybody to have vaults and banks and, manage this value. It is managed, the security of the blockchain is managed by the miners who contribute their compute power and get rewarded with these every 10-minute block rewards. So it's an interesting baked into the code model that, like I said, for 13 years has been working well. And we have some fun applications where we're pulling energy that actually the grid refused energy from this old hydroelectric plant. And they just took the energy and started mining Bitcoin with it and earned 3 times what they would have selling that electricity to the grid. So there's some interesting ways one of the arguments against Bitcoin has been, it's such an energy suck, right? But if you compare the numbers of the energy that goes into the banking infrastructure and the numbers for the energy that goes into supporting the security of the Bitcoin blockchain, it's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and chocolate cake. I don't know. Just think about how separate you can make them. But anyway, this is a fun implementation of using energy that otherwise wouldn't be used to mine Bitcoin. This is probably going into too much detail again, but this is a run through of getting your Bitcoin wallet, and I would love someone. Is anyone want to just raise their hand and say, I'll download a Bitcoin wallet or a crypto wallet? I know I told you at the beginning not to do that. So just come to me afterwards and we'll do a little exchange. So I want to feel like there's someone brave enough to set up their wallet. Paula, no, I shouldn't have pointed you out. I love it. So no, it's a really straightforward, simple process. And I can send 0.0007 Bitcoin to you, and just like that, like $1.50 will show up in your wallet. It's a different way of thinking about value transfer, and I don't need a bank. I don't need anybody to give me permission. I don't need someone to take my vitals and have a whole big deal about it. This is literally peer-to-peer capability with the Bitcoin blockchain. There are some centralized exchanges, and I want to make a point to show this. And you're welcome to send out the slides to anyone who registered, because I want you to have access to these resources. Depending on how interested you are in engaging, there's a lot of different ways to get engaged. Coinbase has been one of the most trusted, easy interface. They do a lot of good stuff around education. They'll actually give you free currency for going through little educational modules. And so it's got an interesting educational focus, but they also extract value through fees. And I've actually gotten to experience them extracting 30% from a transaction that I sent to a private wallet. And I'm giving this as a personal little bit of a cautionary tale, because you always want to send a little bit and see what kind of fees they attach to it before you send a big chunk. So say, for instance, you're like the 70-year-old woman who chatted with me on the golf course and says, I want to own a Bitcoin. My daughter, my granddaughter, I want to own a Bitcoin. How do I do it? So I'm like, easiest place you can go, Coinbase, set up an account. They'll do KYC, AML. This is nothing like, difficult. It's, take a picture of your driver's license. I mean, you take it with your smartphone. They walk you through step by step, and you can buy your Bitcoin. But then there's how do you store your Bitcoin? And I don't know if you guys saw it in the news, but Coinbase, they came out and said straight out, you know what? If we hold your Bitcoin, it's not your Bitcoin. If we go under, you have no claim on your Bitcoin. Okay, so this is really, really, really important to grasp, because if it's not in your personal control, it really is not your Bitcoin. So there are wallets that you can hold your Bitcoin personally. That also means taking responsibility. You can't abdicate responsibility to Coinbase and say, protect my crypto. And then when they say, oh, whoops, we're having a bail-in, now you own shares in Coinbase, but you don't own Bitcoin. Does that sound fun? If you're really looking at Bitcoin as a legacy opportunity for your family over time, would you prefer to own shares in Coinbase? I know I wouldn't. But when I transferred my Bitcoin from Coinbase to a personal wallet that I controlled, they took 30%. Now, I think they were doing it because I might be a bad actor that wasn't going to pay my taxes. And so they're just going to take the 30% that I should have paid in taxes. What they didn't know is the only reason I was on their exchange was to pay my taxes, because I do pay my taxes. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. But this is, just be aware and take a little trial run, so to speak. Get comfortable with the process, understand what the fees are, and then if you want to do something that's more legacy building, something bigger, then take that step. But baby steps are really, really smart okay. Yeah, I'm gonna flash through these. So these are wallets. Exodus, if you have a smartphone, if you set up an Exodus wallet, I'll do that Bitcoin transfer for you. Just let me know if you hang out and catch me at the end. This was the mind blow. I'm going to give you some Bitcoin. How do you safely store it? These are some of the desktop wallets. Electrum is one of the most simple, straightforward. It's that last one right there by Adam, and you just can have hardware wallets. I brought one. This is actually one of the very first ever made. It's the Ledger Nano S, and it literally is like a little flash drive connection to your computer. You can download your Bitcoin and then unplug it from the internet, so it's not connected anymore, because it's those connection points that give you risk. And whoops, this is probably the best in class, most advanced digital cold storage wallet out there. It's called Engrave, and it's just a building awareness. There's very cool technology, but the biggest, most important thing, and when you get one of these guys, they send you a little piece of paper where you write down words. Literally, you write down 12 words. I can memorize those 12 words, go anywhere in the world, and the Bitcoin that is in that wallet, I can access just using those 12 words. So it's a little bit of a mind bend to go, I can store value with 12 words. Someone else can find those 12 words and they can take my value. Okay, so just be aware. It's kind of that blessing and curse component of it. If you choose to take control of your own digital assets, you then have that responsibility. So making sure you write them down, store them in a safe place. Don't forget where you put them. Maybe split 6 in one safe and 6 in another. There's different ways to manage securing your Bitcoin. But just if you ever see seed words, you see, they're telling you write these down. Very, very important, because those really are the key to your digital currency. And lots of places you can spend it. You can actually, at Home Depot, you can buy everything you need to pay for a new home. You can buy it in Bitcoin. So it is definitely something that is much more usable today than it was when I bought it 10 plus years ago. So regulations, capital gains, got to be aware, you either have short-term or long-term capital gains if you spend it. The reporting your purchases, this is where I say it's a legacy play. I don't go make on a daily basis purchases in Bitcoin just because I don't want to mess with the tax implications. Okay, because you have to have the valuation of when you bought it, the valuation of when you sell it, and whether it was capital gain or capital loss, and whether it was short-term or long-term. So there's a little bit of complexity here. I think the first time I did my taxes and was realizing all of this, I paid like 0.5 Bitcoin to have a system manage it on my behalf, because it was like, I don't want to mess with this. But it is really important that you keep the tax ramifications in mind and go from there. Where you can find more info, these are some really, you can get really in depth with some of these links. If you love going down rabbit holes, these links are rabbit holes, but they're as safe a rabbit hole as I can put in front of you. Do be cautious clicking on links. Just be cautious. I'll leave it at that. But these links I've checked. They're ones that will give you additional information, help inform you more. And there's some books. They'll be in the slide deck you guys can have access to if you want to engage and learn more. But this is a time where we're moving to not just digital currency, but stores of value that can be under your choice, your control, or can be managed by others. And the choice is yours. What you choose to do with the value that you created over the years that you worked, how is that going to be maintained over time for your family, for your legacy? There are solutions that can help preserve your value, and I'm more than happy to talk after this. I'm very sorry I went long. Enjoyed the questions. I know we had 2 people that had questions. Do we want to take time to?
Thank you, Linda. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating. I think I'm finally starting to get this a little bit. So as usual, I have lots of questions, but you're very accessible to me, so I'm going to open it up to the floor. Hands, thanks.
And then, of course, on Zoom, if anyone has any questions, just raise your hand and we'll alternate.
This sounds simplistic, I'm sure, but okay, going back to your children's story, the children worked fine as long as they had gold coins or something in storage that secured the amount of their paper money.
$1 equals 1 coin.
Right, and it was when they overproduced the paper. All right, with Bitcoin, you're saying there's 21 million or something limit. Who put that limit? What is going to guarantee that that limit doesn't go up one day and change the value of it?
Great question, because that limitation is set by code that is locked into the functionality of the Bitcoin blockchain. So the humans, and I don't believe it was just one person, but they say Satoshi Nakamoto was the inventor of Bitcoin. I've talked to people who say that they were closely engaged with a woman who was part of a team that built the Bitcoin blockchain. There's no certainty of exactly who those humans were, but the way they set up the code, anybody in the world can look at it. And over the past 13 years, people have attacked that code. It is the most hardened code in the world because people have tried to wreck it and haven't been able to. It is literally just baked in the code that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Now, there have been something called forks. And if you've ever heard of Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Diamond or Bitcoin Gold, there's other ones as well that people have said, you know, hey, we don't agree with this code. We don't like exactly how it is. We're going to do a blockchain that has these rules instead. And they've started doing that blockchain, okay? But that hasn't changed what the original blockchain code is. And the BTC is the symbol for Bitcoin, and that is considered the Bitcoin. Whereas Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Cash, they're other forks or representations of value that have different rules. So it's a great question. It literally is the code that makes the rule of how many Bitcoin can exist and how that value is distributed over time. So that 10 minutes per block, that's part of the code. And there's an adjustment of how hard the problems are to solve based on how much compute power is available to support the Bitcoin blockchain. It's literally supported by miners, tens of thousands of miners all over the world, and is in space. I have actually here, I think I brought it, put it. Uh-oh. Yeah, no. It's, I still have my Bitcoin. For real? No. No, no.
All right, should we move on to, we have a question from the Zoom
No,
audience
it's my
too.
hard drive that had the Bitcoin blockchain on it. You didn't take it, did you?
Oh, the stick? Your thumb drive?
No, it's like that big.
Yep.
Yes, I am happy to take more questions. This is a little bit concerning, to be honest.
Okay, there's a question from our Zoom audience. Rick, go ahead.
Thanks so much. I've been watching the HBO Max series called The Anarchists, about a group that holds a conference regularly in Acapulco for focusing on anarchism. And they're sponsored by cryptocurrency companies. They bring in a Bitcoin ATM machine, and it just puzzled me. What's the appeal of cryptocurrency to anarchists and those who reject the idea of a central government that taxes them?
That's a great question. And I've actually had, I've had conversations with people that are called Bitcoin maximalists. And there's a very interesting line that comes between seeing the value proposition of Bitcoin as a technology and a store of value, and seeing it as a tool that can be used towards other ends. So when you mention the anarchists, if you're trying to step away from the controls of any system, then you're looking for tools that allow you to have your own control. And there is an appeal in a tool like Bitcoin that no government entity controls. That does not mean we should conflate owning Bitcoin with being an anarchist, because they are very, very different. But yes, there is that appeal because it's easy to transfer. Those 12 words in your head, you literally can take value across borders. That can be appealing to people who don't like to pay attention to the rules of those different borders that they're crossing. And that's a personal choice. I've chosen, ever since I've owned Bitcoin, to pay my taxes. And it's been a pain, and it hasn't been fun sometimes because I've had a lot of transactions. But we as humans can choose how we use different tools. And the Bitcoin blockchain is a tool. It can be used to communicate. I actually have on this little drive the entire history of Bitcoin transactions since its inception to when I downloaded it on here. Like literally, like the triple ledger entry of commerce globally using the Bitcoin blockchain. It's very accessible, and it can be something that any human being can choose to use for their purposes, for what's important to them personally. And there's going to be people who make poor choices with it, just like there's people that make poor choices with gold, diamond, dollars, etc. Yes.
Oh,
Okay. So
I read recently that there might be a crypto gift card becoming available. And if that were true, if you spent it, you might be worth $5, or it could be worth a lot more. Can you explain that?
yeah, I actually brought, I think I have it right here. It's a Visa card, and BitPay is the one who puts it out. And I can just put crypto on it and then spend it literally everywhere Visa is accepted. So similarly, a gift card, wherever it would be accepted, you can have companies that come up with their own cryptocurrency and say, hey, this is your rewards card. You know, when you want to buy our product, you can use these rewards. So they're tying it to their specific company. There's others that'll say, you know, hey, buy Starbucks and we'll give you 0.0001 Bitcoin, as a loyalty reward every time you get to your 10th cup. But that literally spends crypto like I spend dollars with my Visa card. But the difference is I already have the crypto on the card, whereas with credit cards, it's more like a debit card, right? Versus a credit card, because my crypto that I purchased is on this card, and when I swipe it, that value that I had is going out. And yes, you're right, depending on the market swings, it could be $5 one day and $25 the next. And so that volatility during an adoption cycle can be extreme. So very good cautionary note on that. But if you recognize its value storage over time, and you're not just spending it willy-nilly without considering tax consequences and where the market cycle is, you're going to preserve your value over time much more effectively.
Is there any directory of organizations who will sell you goods and services with Bitcoin, or Bitcoin? And also, could you purchase any currency in the world with your Bitcoin? Could you ever go back to dollars or some world currency?
Absolutely. And I think one of the links that I have on there, if it's not, I'll double check, is a site that you can go that shows you a bunch of places, if not all the places that you can spend Bitcoin. The second half of your question was converting. That depends on your jurisdiction. You can say in the US, if I go to Coinbase and I'm transacting, they're going to give me a selection of what I can transact into, right? For Coinbase based in the United States, it's going to be different than the selections I get if I'm in Hong Kong and I have the same Bitcoin, but it's in a different jurisdiction, a different exchange. They're going to allow me to take different local fiat currency out. But globally, well, depending on, where you are in the world. Absolutely. I have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes in dollars by cashing out Bitcoin. So it's a real. Can you pay? Oh, yeah, you put it in your bank account. Yeah, yes. No, I mean, I had to put it in my bank account to be able to pay the IRS. So I could choose to use it in any way I wanted, but that's. Absolutely. Yes, you can exchange Bitcoin into fiat or any government's currency over whatever jurisdiction you're in.
My impression is that there's a new cryptocurrency coming out every week besides Bitcoin. Tell us about that. Tell us about the whole crypto world. Yeah, and I did promise Paula that I wasn't going to, mention any other altcoins, cryptocurrencies, because you're absolutely right. Just like in the book, it said, Fed coin and Freddie coin, and they were going like, oh, well, this is a way we can make money, right? And so yes, thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies have been created. The majority have already been wrecked. They have zero or very, very, very little value. Some of them have gone on. There was one that was a joke coin. It's called Doge coin. It literally was a joke. It was a meme that was just proliferated. And now I think it's the 11th cryptocurrency by trading volume in the world. It's insane. It intrinsically has no value other than people knowing that other people know about it and they might buy it, and it's just a bet. So it's like crypto goes to Vegas. Yes, absolutely. And if you want to bet on things, I've actually researched different cryptocurrencies. I've researched their team. I've talked with their team.
I've understood the fundamentals that they have or don't have. And I have seen an investing opportunity that's a short-term opportunity. And I've invested and I've made profit and I've sold and like, okay, but that's after doing some really intense due diligence and knowing that it was not a long-term play. It was a short-term, and I could have lost it all. And I accepted that, right? So there's stocks, when you have an IPO, who knows what it's really going to do after it hits the market, right? It could go, or it could go up. So it's, yes, we have filled the market with a lot of junk. It's like penny stocks. Maybe it's going to be something. Odds are probably not. So there's a lot of that out there. Do your own research if you're going to invest your hard-earned dollars in, I mean, Bitcoin is the only one that I know historically over time, and the commodity that it is, it's been acknowledged by the CFTC, by the SEC. I mean, it has the fundamentals that I can feel very confident stating what I've done with it and why, and anything else, it needs to be your own research and your own choice making.
So a question for me though. So with the wallets, I find that a little confusing at times. So is it one wallet, one digital currency, or can you have a wallet, digital wallet that accepts all?
It's a great question, because the disconnect between understanding what a wallet is and what an address is where your question really lies. Because I can have a wallet, for instance, you can have the Exodus wallet, and in that I have 27 different addresses that I hold 27 different currencies in. Same wallet, same passcode to get in, same KYC AML if it was, a wallet that had that level of security on it. But that's the difference, is one wallet can hold multiple currencies, but it holds them in different addresses. And those addresses are compatible with the blockchain that crypto comes from. So it's an address versus wallet.
Okay, and just one more question for me, and then I know your disclaimer at the beginning was you're not here for investment advice. But just on a personal level, what is your feeling about investing as Bitcoin or digital currency as investment, not necessarily daily spending of it, but long-term investments?
Yeah, I can only speak from experience. So 2 to 3% of my investable assets have outperformed everything else that I invested in during the same time frame. And that is something that it just has been. And historical growth over time, past growth doesn't predict future growth, all of that. But hands down, it has been the best investment class, asset class, opportunity, risk, reward in my personal portfolio investment history. I can only point to the past and expect that the future is going to be continuing adoption, or maybe try to be crushed by different countries as it has been. India was very aggressively against cryptocurrencies for a period of time. Now their own CBDC, central bank digital currency, is now coming forward. The US is going to be coming out with a CBDC, or basically giving a check mark to a stable coin that represents one-to-one the value of a dollar. So we're not going to avoid going into the use of digital and cryptocurrencies. It's happening. It's just how much of the choice do you choose to take into your own hands? And do you just say, well, hey, if the government approves this, then that's what I'm going to use, and that's the end of your story in that regard? It's a comfort zone. You have to choose what your comfort zone is and what you want your legacy to be and how you want to store your value over time. So,
okay, if we can keep you for 2 more questions, and that'll be it. All right.
Oh, and I appreciate, yes. Are you the other question? I didn't come to sell anything. I didn't bring any business cards. There will be, I think, an email that goes out with the presentation. And I'm on LinkedIn under Linda Goetze. If you do Linda Goetze on LinkedIn or an email, we'll get communicate. Yeah, I apologize. I did have a couple of batches of cards, and I was like, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm trying to pitch them something, because that's not my purpose.
Linda,
Pleasure, thank you.
Linda, I have this different question. It seems to me that because of the anonymity of this system, it's a great place to hide money, like drug dealers.
That's why I made a point about pseudo anonymity. So yes, there are some tokens, not Bitcoin, that actually have pretty much full anonymity. So for actual transactions, you don't know who is sending or receiving. If you take any of those cryptocurrencies to an exchange to cash them out into any, the dollar, the yen, whatever, there's this connection to real identity that happens when you go into a KYC situation. The KYC AML is know your customer. So you can't be anonymous and cash out on an exchange.
So that's how the IRS knows how much money you've made on your Bitcoin?
I've reported it, but no, they have a company called Chain Analysis that has worked with the US government, and they have actually mapped, and like I showed you, I, as like an everyday human being, can download the entire Bitcoin blockchain transactions. So you can imagine that the government, using their own tracing tools and working with companies like Chain Analysis, they can target the entities that own certain wallets and how they have moved those Bitcoin over time. And in most cases, they know exactly who holds what wallets. Not in all, because some of the original wallets have never moved any Bitcoin to any exchange that has KYC AML. So that until they do move it, there's really no telling who holds that wallet 100%.
When you said you have in your wallet 7 or 17 different currencies, are those yen, dollars, and rubles, or are they different chain block currencies?
They're different cryptocurrencies. Yes. And that's, Bitcoin, Ethereum, just a number of choices that I've made over time to say, this is a project that may do well, that I think has long-term use case that I want to hold. So that's, and everybody makes different choices. I mean, I don't know who has, made stock picks or has a broker that manages, 10, 20, 50 investments for them in their portfolio. Right. So that's a thing, right? You diversify, and diversification in my mind is key. But if you diversify into a bunch of penny stocks and you think that's true diversification, you're nuts, right? So you diversify into different asset classes. And in my opinion, Bitcoin stands in an asset class of its own, as opposed to other cryptocurrencies or cryptocurrencies in general.
Linda, thank you. Please.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.